Welcome to the Woodpreneur Podcast, the number one podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. I'm your host, Steve from Acres of Timber. Each week, we feature various wood business owners and entrepreneurs from around the globe. We share their stories, paths, insights so that you can network, learn, and grow your own wood business. Thank you so much for listening. Now enjoy the episode. The Woodpreneur Podcast is proudly sponsored by Acres CRM. Acres CRM is the wood industry's only customer relationship management software dedicated to helping you automate your sales and marketing so that you can focus on serving your customers and growing your business. You can visit acresoftimber.com to learn more and to schedule a demo. Once again, that's acresoftimber.com. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur Podcast. This is your host, Steve from Acres of Timber, and today's guest is Jeremy Howard, who's the president of Nyle. How you doing, Jeremy?
Good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
Nice
like I was saying, it's been a little while since we've connected. You were part of our Woodpreneur Summit back in
That's right.
Before but I call pre-pandemic the blip, right? Remember
I do. Yeah.
That was before the blip.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell everybody about you and your background? Like how'd you get to become the president of Nyle?
I've been here for a long time. That's
Yeah.
how. Yeah. I started out doing our controls. I got hired on by one of the co-founders, which is a long time ago at this point, back in I think 2004, working on all our controls, the PLC, from the smaller stuff all the way up to the larger kilns that we were doing at the time, and dug into it, got to meet a lot of different customers, got to start traveling a little bit, and worked kind of my way into the role of being the customer advocate person, trying to just make sure that everybody's being as efficient as they possibly can, and that their kilns are working the way that they want them to, and they're drying the way that they want them to. And based on those relationships, it kind of just fell into a sales role. And so from there, it transitioned into, going to trade shows and meeting different people at, the kiln drying organizations. And Don Lewis, who was the co-founder, retired, I think 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago at this point, and kind of needed to fill the role as a sales manager. And so I fit into that. And based on my background with the controls and operations piece, we kind of just worked through it together, and I built my team, and the rest is history.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the history of Nyle. How long you guys been around? And what was your marquee signature product?
So Nyle was formed in the late 70s. Signature product was our dehumidification kilns, and those were developed by really one of the co-founders, was the brains behind that, and it was Don, and he worked with the university to put together a dehumidifier that would work in dry kilns. And there were some other sort of outlier products that were out there at the time, that were missing some of the capability that were required to really be a good, efficient dehumidifier to dry wood with. And Don worked really hard to figure those intricacies out, to make our units work in large scale kilns. And then from there, he started developing smaller units as well that fit into the sort of portable sawmill market. And so those were what we built for years. In fact, those were what we built when I started back in early 2000s. We weren't building boxes or kilns or anything. We had, we're just building parts and components for people to put their own together. But we're fitting our dehumidifiers into that. So that was the space. And then it sort of transitioned from there. We got into pallet heat treaters, you were using some gas fired furnaces and things like that to treat pallets. And then, we're building small chambers for those for a while. And we started to get a little bit of traction and with the larger dehumidifiers and some customers that wanted to actually have us do the larger kilns. So we transitioned and grew our engineering team and came up with some designs based on what we saw in the field that we thought were kind of picked and choose. I'm glad we were late to the party in some cases with our bigger stuff, because I feel like the box that we ended with really represents a lot of who we are, which was really based around energy efficiency and being good at controlling the energy that's in the kiln and lowering the cost for drying. And so the box that we built really signifies that in a lot of different ways. So even though we were late, we actually came up with a really good product. And during COVID, the blip, couple of years, we're developing some really good solutions for the small stuff now too, and which is taken off for us. So that's kind of where we are. We do all sorts of kilns. We build a lot of steam kilns at this point too. But because of the capability we have, I can really focus on fitting in what makes the most sense for the customer, that's going to be really efficient from an energy standpoint, and kind of fit what niche they're doing depending on what species that they're drying and things like that. So it's been cool. Really fun run.
Yeah.
A lot of changes, a lot of improvements, a lot of innovation.
You know what I like about Nyle is your ability you basically have a product for every type of business, right? Like every type of wood business. And when you think about your main customer, like how would you describe them? Like, how would you, what's the profile of like the majority of them?
As this ever changing based on the industry is so up and down. So the profile of our main customer right now are a lot of softwood customers that are drying a lot of a lot of different products in the softwood industry, because that's where the industry is right now. But typically, most of the conversations start out with one or two things. One is, I have this smaller setup. We're doing this end product. I really need to dry the lumber because I'm making cabinets, or I make custom countertops, or I do, I'm a woodworker in this area. It's a very small thing. We sell a ton of small dehumidifiers to fit that niche. It's like the perfect product, dries the correct volume, low cost to get it done.
You provide your own box. You provide your own
box. It's easy to control. This is what you need. This is perfect, right? And then the other end of that is customers who historically have done probably, a lot of steam kilns. They may do another steam kiln, but they're not 100% sure if they have the correct capacity. They're really focused in sort of a younger generation thing that's helped us out a lot, is that the younger generation people are coming into these businesses and saying, hey, we need to lower our cost in drying. Like, what this is costing this to get this product out the door. There's obviously there's a profit to be made from going from green lumber to dried lumber, and these guys may be selling it to retailers or manufacturing or wholesalers, or somebody that's making an end product. And so I got to get this out the door, but I also need to cut our costs out so we can increase our profits. How do I do that? And so we're getting a lot of we're making a lot of new customers from going into that market, and sometimes that ends up being a dehumidifier, but like I said, sometimes it ends up being a steam kiln with new controls, and where we'll upgrade the whole facility, or we have a heat recovery vent that has been absolutely crazy for us this year. And so that's the avenue that we're kind of going. Is we start with, I'm looking for a box, but I need to be more efficient than what we have right now. What do you recommend? And we start with like, what's your energy costs? And we sort of help them follow the path that makes the most sense, and hopefully it works out. That's the typical, but it's one of those two. It's like smaller, hey, this is what I'm doing. It's I'm the Sawyer, and I'm the end user.
Like a Sawyer with an LT 4050.
That's what I'm making this product at the end. Or I got a bunch of people in my area that are cutting wood, and there's not really a dry kiln around. I'd like to set up a small thing. What can I do to get started? And perfect, we have that that piece, or the other side of it, which is either, hey, I'm looking to increase production by a whole bunch, or we're looking to make our stuff more efficient. And those are our two primary hands right now, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
What challenges have you seen in the marketplace as it relates to drying? Like what are people getting wrong when they're thinking about drying and adding drying to their business?
That varies. A lot of people aren't really looking at what they're trying to get out annually, so they don't really quite understand the drying process. So,
like, no metrics behind their business.
yeah, that happens a lot. Like, hey, I want a 10,000 board foot kiln, and you sort of say, oh, like, what I drying? I'm drying it's a softwood species. Okay, so you're gonna get 2 to 4 to 10 loads a month, right? So I'm doing the math in my head of like, this is what species they're drying, so they should get this many loads a month out. So, like, okay, so then that means that you have to dry, or you have to be cutting that amount of wood in order to need that much kiln capacity at the end of the month. So the math doesn't always match, and so you're sort of helping customers.
They're not also thinking about the production capability of a
That's
mill.
right.
They're looking at it as like a one-off activity.
Yeah.
They got a bunch of logs, they're milling,
Yeah.
they're drying, but it's not this continuous process in order for you to really maximize the usage of your kiln, right?
Right. And it's like, oh, well, I got some oak and then I have some white pine. And so you're like, okay, well, one takes the entire month to dry, and the other one is, from green takes the entire month to dry, unless you air dry it, right? Or in the other one, you probably do 4 or 5 cycles a month. So, which size kiln do you want? You probably need 2 small ones, or so it's getting that thought process going. And oftentimes you may delay your sales process, but that's okay, because you end up with a customer for life as you sort of fit them into what they actually need, and getting them the right product, and helping them be more successful in what they're doing. That's the hardest part sometimes, is getting that. And then you have other customers who say, I need to add 100,000 board feet of kiln capacity, and we're drying. I want kiln specifically made for maple, and you design the airflow, and you get all those things built around that, and then that works too. But it's one or the other, and so, but those are the hurdles. Is just getting them to understand what kiln drying is and how it's going to work out. Because sometimes there's just a preconceived notion of I need something, and it's not always 100% accurate. So,
well, I think what you said was something that I touch upon a lot with clients and the audience, the Woodpreneur community, is that you should really have a focus and a niche, right? And when you have a focus and a niche, then you could build your equipment stack around that for maximum efficiency. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I do. I think that you more often than not find the most successful, especially the smaller businesses that have a niche. Those are the ones that are growing the fastest, and or becoming the most stable, for sure.
Mm-hmm. What industries have been like a new surprise for you in terms of kiln drying, right? Like traditionally it's been sawyers and sort of maybe furniture manufacturers, but like, have you seen any interesting new applications as it relates to the wood industry?
In South America, we've had a lot of things that are some new products that are coming out that are kind of neat, that are unique in different ways. I'm trying to think if I where they're doing something similar to CLT, and creating these large blocks of wood, and then creating like plywood sheets out of it. And there's been some really wild stuff that are people getting creative with wood that I think are in the pipeline, or coming down the road pretty soon. Otherwise, I don't think I've been really too surprised. You can kind of see the trend going. Slabs have been big for the last 5 or 6 years. The urban wood stuff is obviously that's taken off, but you get a lot of great customers out of those industries. But otherwise, no, not too many shocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some neat stuff, but not too many shocks right recently, anyways.
How was the pandemic for you in business?
Uh, really, truthfully, we did really well.
Yeah.
We we forecasted really well. We saw things coming. We planned it ahead for inventory. We had already had, we had good relationships with all of our vendors. We got ahead of it in a lot of different ways. We actually were able to we doubled manufacturing during the pandemic.
Wow. And you
So
had the team there.
and we had the team there. Yeah,
Wow.
we didn't
Congrats.
really run into a lot of issues. We were very careful. We protected ourselves early. We allowed people that could work remotely almost immediately. So we scaled down the amount of people that were in the building. Just did things in a way that allowed us to move forward quicker.
Mm.
Obviously a lot of people were home and decided they want to get into the business as well, so that the smaller units went nuts. Um, as a sales group, we really focused on connecting to the customers more
Yeah.
so than we had in the past. There were no trade shows to go to, so we needed to find other avenues to get connected with our customers. We
Mm.
built off our YouTube channel, started doing instructional videos on troubleshooting and drying 101 stuff that really helped us out a lot. Answer a lot of questions, got people excited about drying, kind of put the kiln in their hands before they made the decisions to purchase. So it made things a little bit easier for them to kind of understand the process and what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So all those things really came together for us well. So we were very successful during that. Now, that being said, towards the last year, when it was really kind of over and everybody came back, the supply chain thing we managed for a long time and we got ahead of it, but the supply chain thing really started to kick us pretty good.
Mm.
Um, right now it's, we're coming out of it, but for about the last 6 months or so, we were delayed on like projects that should never have been delayed for the most ridiculous little tiny pieces and parts
Yeah.
that, seemingly you patch one hole and there's another one that opens up, and no fault to any of our vendors, but they really have no idea when any of their stuff is going to land, and so you get dates from them that are inaccurate, and you're forwarding the information that you have to your customer base, and those are based on inaccurate dates, so yours become inaccurate, and then it's a chain. So we had to really get a little creative and be smarter about lead times and estimates and things like that for the last 6 months, in order to not really upset some people, and we've had to make some concessions in order to make things right for a lot of people too, just because it's absolutely crazy. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but made it through, and I think that things seemingly are getting better on that end of it too. So
For sure. For sure.
yep.
What you know what so I know a lot of my audience, a lot of woodpreneur community, they do listen, they when they're looking at investments, and obviously uh kiln drying is an important part of the lumber production process. Like how would you make the case for the Nyle technology, the dehumidification, the steam, as opposed to air, dry, solar, vacuum, radio frequency, like how, like what's the specific sort of bet, like the best case sort of point behind it?
Nyle does a very good job of simplifying the process and making it cost effective to operate. And so from a business standpoint, and knowing what I know about kiln drying, if I were going into the business, we try to focus on creating a product that all of us here would purchase ourselves first. And there's other cool products that are out there. Our competition, everybody makes something that they obviously believe in. we try to really focus on making something that we would use ourselves, and that has paid off for us in different ways. We've improved products over the years to make them better, to make them more user friendly, to make them less prone to error, to keep, people in, the smaller guys in particular, they have a large investment in time and inventory that's in the kiln that they need to come out correct. Dehumidifiers in general are nearly bulletproof. You really only can take out a certain amount of water per day, so even if everything goes completely wrong, it's not going to damage the lumber more often than not, or almost impossible. And so having that capability and having the lumber, really come out, or the end product actually come out the way that our customers want it to, or expect it to, or even better, is the focus. So, I like I said, we have there's the other kiln manufacturers out there. They all do a good job in the things that they do. We just feel that we are producing something that is gives everybody a higher potential to be successful, I guess, is the best way to put that.
For sure. And I think, like I said, I my family in-laws, we have a Nyle, right? And it's retrofitted inside of a trailer, right? And
Nice.
so
Yep.
it's
Yep.
and like a semi trailer, right? And
Yep.
and it's just so custom, right? And
Yep.
and everybody has a different need for their business. Not all businesses are the same. Not all products that people produce are the same. And I feel like giving people a choice, and the customization for what you need, is super important. Talk about, like, what do you have planned in 2023? Like, what could we see from you guys?
We have there's a couple new products we have coming out next year, that are going to be, hopefully something that really puts us on a map in sort of some other directions. Our focus obviously is been this year on efficiency and reducing costs, and reducing energy usage, as it always has. We rolled out our retrofit control platform this year, and like I was telling you earlier, we've been selling a lot of the heat recovery vents for the larger kiln installations.
Mm-hmm.
One of the products that we don't have is in the softwood market, and we're very focused this year on releasing that component. So we'll have to have another meeting to go over that, when that comes out. I can go through in some details with you, but it's something that we've wanted to do. But again, I'm not unhappy with the fact that we didn't go to market with something sooner than we have. I think we've waited long enough to do this the right way, without giving everything away. But I think that we're going to be in a very good spot with being able to utilize all the different facets that Niles is very good at, in a market that doesn't have experience with that. So that's coming out, which I didn't tell you much today, but there's a great softwood product coming out, and we're also going to be doing a lot more this year with our cloud platform, and tying in the control boxes to those. So customers that have all of our Pro Series and all of the current retrofit controls, and anything that is coming out next year will have the capability of tying into that. So that'll be something that we're focused on, which that whole platform is unique in itself. It incorporates a lot more analytics than we've ever been able to do before, and there's some really fun and interesting dashboards that customers can use to really look at what's going on in the kiln in different ways than we've been able to do before. So those are our main releases for this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
we're traveling all over the place too, because things are finally starting to open up, and all the shows are back in session, and so we'll be everywhere.
That's awesome. Hey, so tell me, so like I'd love to, so I think about different customer profiles. So somebody that has an LT40, they are producing, 5 to 10,000 board feet a month. Um, they are located in, the Midwest someplace, right? Like
Sure.
what product line should they be looking at?
That volume is probably our low temperature dehumidifiers, almost definitely. We sell a lot of the container kilns, similar to your family's your truck kiln, or um, it's it's a it's a lower volume, ready to go plug and play kiln. It's extremely easy to use. It has the potential to cover airflow, the correct airflows for all different species. We also have a do-yourself L series chamber that we're on the market with now as well. That's on our YouTube channel too. But that's probably in that size range. That's probably the area that I'd point. It depends. A lot of customers that go with the smaller units and end up with a couple of those rather than a bigger chamber that covers everything that they're doing in the month. So again, try to match production, but like if that's what you're doing, you probably cut that sawing up into different weeks and look at how much you're doing per week, and then what the drying schedules are, and then we fit that. But almost definitely with what you just said with our smaller DH units for sure.
So if somebody's producing around 100,000 board feet a month, what do you think is a good air? What should they be looking at?
So, the exact sales path that we take in that scenario is discussing with them what they have available for energy. So that is, do you currently have a boiler? And that's a yes or no path.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a no, okay, do you have the capability, or do you have a market to move the waste that you're producing from cutting 100,000 board feet? And that's a yes or no path. Yes, I do actually. There's farms, there's whatever, there's a whole mill that takes that, or whatever the case may be. Or there's no. Okay, if it's no, then that's a discussion. Have you thought about that? What is your plan in that direction? If that is well, we really need to produce energy from that. Okay, so there's avenues that we take, incorporate in that, but we really try to help with the whole process. We typically, out of those situations, we either end up with helping them and build steam kilns, or we are quoting them on steam kilns because they're going to produce enough to feed the kilns with energy, or we'll end up with a dehumidifier with a steam preheat, so we can preheat with steam and then use the dehumidifiers to go through the drying process.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's really depends. If you're in an area that's get really inexpensive natural gas, we have furnaces that do that, or it's all about what helps the customer be the most successful, and that's the direction we go in. If they already have a steam boiler, it's already getting rid of their wood waste, and they have plenty of steam capacity, then more often than not, it's going to be a steam kiln. With the tech that we have now and the capability, it used to be that our team's sales pitch, or our sales pitch, always was like, well, here's the scoop. Dehumidifier is the way and the conceptual understanding, or if you can understand how that works in a kiln, we're keeping the most energy in the kiln and removing water without changing the drying rate. So you have a very constant drying rate, and you're capable of producing a very high quality lumber using a DH kiln in the same speed that you're doing in almost every species. And so the pitch always was, that's the direction you should go in, unless your electricity is so far off, from wherever else is, then it doesn't make sense. Now, because of the tech that we've been able to incorporate in our gas and our steam kilns, it's almost neck and neck. Like, we really can produce an environment in the conventional kilns, with our controls and our heat recovery vents, that we've been able to do in the past with our DH kilns are pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it's really based on energy costs. That's plain and simple. It's this, and some people are at, I mean, if they've had DH for already, then most customers will buy DH again.
Mhm.
But we still look at it every time. Like, let's look at your energy costs, see if it makes sense, unless it's not the direction they want to go in. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. My father-in-law has he's got a wood boiler stuck to his. So
yeah,
he's using the waste from the mill to
yep,
heat up his kiln. And so
yeah.
I
It's
love
great.
that. I
That's
love that option. You know what I mean?
yep.
It's, talk about an efficient circular thing, and in terms of like a marketing and a product differentiation, you're like, hey, your wood product that you bought from me was sustainably sourced, right, through and through, right, and it's good for the environment, and we're capturing the carbon, and we're heating it up in the most efficient, safest way possible.
Yeah, I love those solutions. I always get a kick out of the firewood kiln guys. The firewood kiln guys almost always are burning firewood to dry the firewood. It's like man,
Yeah, yeah,
good
yeah.
business.
Yeah, the
Um,
fire, yeah, the firewood
yeah.
guys burning
Oh my
firewood.
goodness.
They
Yeah,
dry their firewood. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
No, we have a lot of customers in the past 4 years that have gone with hybrid kilns that are either preheating with hot water or preheating with steam, even natural gas, just to get the kilns up to temperature. But that's a lot more common. In the past, it was almost always DH unit with electric heat coils, and they're like, sometimes that's super expensive to get the kiln preheated. But if you have waste and you don't have a lot, and you don't want to go with a huge boiler, those
Hmm.
preheating boilers are perfect size. And there's a lot of customers with the smaller units that are doing that too, just like that. So
Yeah,
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 it's cost effective for sure.
for sure, for sure. Cool. So how can people get in touch? What's website and
Yeah, websites. Yeah, www.nyle.com or kilns.nyle.com will get you to our website. We have online chat available if you have quick questions. We have a contact form that's available in about 7 different spots you can click on to get there too. We also have a YouTube channel. It's under Nyle. So look us up there to post comments, questions on all those videos. We try to cover everything. If you want to see something or you want to see us do something on our YouTube channel, feel free to send an inquiry in on the website, and we'll be happy to do that. We also have a Facebook page too, so you can follow us on Facebook and join that group. That's great discussion. Our guys are really good about getting back to people with questions on drawing questions or unit questions or you name it. We try to cover it all. So yeah, we're pretty much everywhere at this point.
awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Jeremy, thanks so much for your time. I'm excited to get this out and to have people hear directly from the president of Nyle about your product. And yeah, like I said, a lot of my my clients and customers in the past, and I know Nile's a big fan amongst the woodpreneur community. So thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Thanks so much for listening to the Woodpreneur Podcast, the #1 podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. If you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star rating and review. You can also tap into our community by visiting woodpreneurlife.com. Once again, that's woodpreneurlife.com.